There's a common misunderstanding that conflict is bad and shouldn't be part of relationships. And I know that I spent a lot of time judging the conflict that would arise in our relationship, and I would put a lot of pressure on myself and on you to not have conflict in relationship, and there would be a lot of judgment on you in particular when there was conflict in relationship. And what I see now is that all of that pressure and trying to get rid of conflict and trying to improve our relationship just made us more prone to conflict.
That's right. We became conflict professionals.
Yes. And so now I think that our relationship is so much easier, so much more fun, and yet we still have conflict in our relationship.
Yeah, there is nothing abnormal about there being conflict in a relationship. I'm sure there are people out there who don't have any conflict, and more power to their cause, but it's perfectly normal for there to be moments of conflict, and I think that we, can have a tendency to make all kinds of meaning out of that. And I think the shift for us has been to realize that, we don't need to dwell on it in that way, and that we can see, there are going to be times where we have a difference of opinion, and sometimes we can assert that difference of opinion in unpalatable ways even. But there is nevertheless the opportunity to not take that personally.
Yeah.
And I think that's been, where our relationship has flourished, in that ability to not take, there's a spectrum to that, and from time to time maybe we do. But for the most part, we're less inclined to take those moments personally.
Yeah, and that when they do arise, like we had an instance fairly recently last week where it came up, where that when that does happen, we're much better at being able to, like you say, move on from it, not take it personally, and then kind of bounce back and get back to normal. And that, I think, has made a huge difference, because before what would happen is there would be conflict, and then there would be conflict about the conflict.
That's right.
And then there would be more conflict trying to resolve the conflict. Whereas now there might be a moment of conflict, we settle down, we get over it, and we move on.
As opposed to that never-ending spiral of dismay. We could go on. But the other thing that I think that's worth mentioning too is that I feel like, so for argument's sake, last week, I guess for whatever reason, I got myself into a low mood, and I wasn't even really that conscious of it. It may have been some sort of physiological reason. I don't know. I might have been a little bit under the weather. I think I was. But I was feeling insecure about something, so the kind of conditions were ripe for me to be in a low mood and probably not be at my best. And I was feeling insecure, and I think that in that insecurity, I was perhaps a little bit on the petulant side.
Well, let's be fair. I was impatient and somewhat judgmental. I think what started it off is that I didn't have a lot of patience for you and technology.
Did it start off with technology? It's always bloody technology.
I wasn't very patient with you around that.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember exactly what happened to begin with. I just felt that, maybe it was some dissatisfaction with my prowess around, or lack of prowess around technology, and that maybe I did get a little bit triggered, but I definitely feel like I maybe went a step too far. I mean, there's a spectrum to a step too far. It wasn't like I was throwing projectiles or anything, but I definitely got annoyed, let us say. But then I feel like I moved on from that, but I don't think necessarily you had, in a way where you felt like you were satisfied that I had perhaps my spirits had elevated by that point. But by the point where I felt like I wanted to come to you, and I was feeling kind of vulnerable, and I was actually wanting to talk about what I was feeling insecure about, I think that you, for whatever reason, decided that I was giving you permission to give me feedback, that it could include what I would perceive as being some fairly serious judgment. And if my memory serves me correct, it may have involved the sentence, "You're behaving like a spoiled brat."
I thought that was neutral feedback.
I think it was almost neutral. It was on the cusp of neutral, but there was definitely a little bit of a flavour of judgment.
Got it.
But I decided to take that really personally.
Yes.
And I think that, in retrospect, that was very much a symptom of the state of my mind that I had been in all day, within my physiology and my psychological state of insecurity. Who knows which came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. But nevertheless, I took that very personally. I think that in some ways it was perhaps a step in the right direction, because I think I just removed myself from the proceedings. Maybe had a few choice words to share with you before I left, but I nevertheless was really caught up. But also, even though that I was caught up, even though I was caught up, I was certainly caught up and feeling very distraught. There was this sort of little voice on my shoulder. It's just thought. It's just thought. And you'll get over it in a couple of hours. Because in a couple of hours you'll do some coaching and you'll feel so much better, and you're probably going to send a text to Rohini at that point saying how much you love her and everything's okay and I'm really sorry.
That's the same voice he used for Nico.
It's my alter ego.
Is that Nico talking to you?
It is. Maybe it is Nico. But so the fact is I still felt so compelled to be in my place of judgment and righteousness, and my ego is like, well, in a couple of hours you can do that, but now we're going to be really mad at her.
Your ego sounds the same as the other voice. I need two different voices.
Oh, I see. Wasn't it the same voice? I think it was the same voice. But that's what's so it's kind of fascinating in a sense, is that even knowing what we know, and I guess some people probably know more than me, evidently they do, but for me it just feels so compelling that I can be completely caught up and realize that I'm just getting caught up in my thought systems. But my ego, I just get sucked down the plug hole in certain situations where, even knowing what I know, I still get caught up and I still react from that place and still want to be defending those embattlements, if you like.
Well, and what I think the most important point that I want to make is that even when that still happens with us, neither one of us is perfect, that I don't feel that we have a bad relationship because of that. I feel that there's room in our relationship for you to have your moments where you're not at your best. There's room in our relationship for me to have my moments when I'm not at my best. And that in the past, that kind of behavior, I would have thought that meant something about the relationship, that meant something about us not getting along. All of extra layers of meaning would have been placed on it. Whereas this time around, it's like, yeah, Angus is not in a great mood. I didn't behave that great. Oh, well, let's move on.
Yeah. And I think that in the past, I was just, attached to this idea that this is abnormal and that no one else is having this experience, which is just so not the case. And obviously some people don't get into those kind of psychological fisticuffs, but, for whatever reason, we do from time to time. But there's no need to make all kinds of meaning about it. It's just a storm front, a weather pattern that's passing through.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to our neat, loving state.
That's right. And the better we get at allowing our emotional storm fronts to pass through on a personal level, I think that helps us to see how the same thing happens within the relationship. There may be a storm front, as you're saying, Angus, on the relationship level, but it's going to come, it's going to go, and then you get back to enjoying the loving natural state of the relationship.
Yeah, and Hurricane Angus has moved through, or Hurricane Rohini.
That's right. Well, have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Take care.